Okay, seventh grade. How's things today? Hope you guys are doing well. We're looking at Chapter 7, Section 2 today, the Constitutional Convention. The Constitutional Convention, which will take place in 1787 in the beautiful city of Philadelphia, where so many of the other meetings took place during the writing of the Declaration of Independence, the Continental Congress, the Second Continental Congress, Pennsylvania being a middle colony, being an area where everybody could get to in the middle of the colonies relatively easily. This is where we're going to see the Constitutional Convention, Chapter 7, Section 2. One vocab word at the top of the page, but there are 9 vocab words in this deck. The word that appears here is compromise, an agreement in which both sides give up something in order to reach a settlement, an agreement in which both sides give up something in order to reach some type of settlement, compromise. So let's take a look at the Constitutional Convention. The Constitutional Convention opened on May 25th of 1787. It was a meeting of delegates from each of the 13 states. Now remember, this is after the Revolution has been won. This is after the independence has been won and earned and recognized by countries around the world. The meeting of delegates from each state takes place in Philadelphia. The leading delegates included Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. Their goal, as we pointed out in class, was to tweak or to make the Articles of Confederation better. We had said in Chapter 7, Section 1 that the Articles of Confederation was not an appropriate constitution for the new country to operate under. So they came to Philadelphia hoping to just make adjustments. And instead, as we learned in class, they did a whole brand new constitution at this convention. So as we just said, after some discussion, the delegates decided to write a whole new constitution. However, the delegates there disagreed about the form of the new government. And 2 groups proposed 2 different plans. One group was proposed by a large state, Virginia, large in terms of population, and that plan is called the Virginia Plan. And the other plan was submitted by a smaller populated state, the state of New Jersey. That is going to be called the New Jersey Plan, and we'll talk about both of those plans in the chart. States with large populations supported the Virginia Plan. It would give them more members in Congress. Small states did not like the Virginia Plan because they feared that large states could outvote them in Congress. They favored the New Jersey Plan because it would let each state have the same number of members in the Congress. Finally, delegates would agree on a compromise, and this compromise is going to be named the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise is this settling of the dispute between the larger states led by Virginia and the smaller states led by New Jersey. Now, according to the Great Compromise, there would be 2 houses in Congress, 2 houses or 2 bodies in Congress. In the Senate, each state would have 2 members. And in the House of Representatives, the other house, the number of members would be based on each state's population. We're going to go over this in detail in class, but each state would have 2 U.S. senators, and a state would have a varying number of members of the House of Representatives, and it would be dependent upon the state's population. The convention also made compromises about slavery. Southern states wanted slaves included in their population count. If slaves were not counted, northern states would have more members in the House of Representatives. Delegates finally agreed to let the South count 3/5, or 3 out of every 5 slaves that lived in a particular state. Delegates also agreed to not outlaw the slave trade for at least another 20 years. Now, in our chart today, let's look at the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan, 2 separate plans one proposed by a group of large states led by Virginia, and one proposed by a group of smaller states led by New Jersey. The Virginia plan at the Constitutional Convention recommended a legislative branch with two houses or two groups of lawmakers. Also, the Virginia plan stipulates or recommends that the number of members is based on the number of people in each state. The number of members is going to be based on the number of people in each state. So the more members, the more people, the more citizens living in a state, the more representatives in Congress under the Virginia plan there would be. The New Jersey plan is quite different. The New Jersey plan calls for a one-house legislature. That would be called unicameral. Two-house legislature is called bicameral. The New Jersey plan called for a legislative branch with one house, and also each state would have the same number of members in Congress, regardless of how many people lived in a state. These are the two plans that are going to be recommended at the Constitutional Convention, and these two plans would compete at the Constitutional Convention. And ultimately, what's going to happen is you're going to have a compromise between these two plans, and that compromise will be called the Great Compromise. Let's take a look at our questions here at the bottom of Chapter 7, Section 2 screencast and your worksheet. Question 1 is going to be based on the reading. What was the original goal of the Constitutional Convention? Again, you can find the answer to question 1 in the reading. What was the original goal of the Constitutional Convention? I would strongly recommend that in order to find the answer, you read the introductory paragraph to the reading we just completed, the introductory paragraph. Question 2, which is based on the chart, asks what were the two differences between the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan? What were the two differences between the New Jersey plan and the Virginia plan? And you can find the answer to question 2 on your chart below. And next section that we will look at section 7.3, and that will consist of a screencast on ideas behind the United States Constitution, the main ideas behind the United States Constitution. Until then, we will see you very, very soon. Have a great day, 7th graders.